I made the Menoni Tower in 2017. My practice involves photography, but I'd come from a conventional photographic background, but in the trajectory of my career, I've kind of gone more and more onto the parameters of what photography is and what it can be. So I use photography, but I also use images or magazines in this case that I've collected over the years. I kind of started collecting when I was very young, when I was 13. Around that age, started to get interested in imagery, but obviously that's retrospect. I can look back at it now, but at the time I didn't think I was going to be an artist. That wasn't what I thought. I was going to be an air hostess. So I've worked in many different ways, and sometimes you don't know when something's going to become useful when you're making a piece of work. So you can have something stored away in a corner for years and years and years, and then all of a sudden it starts making sense. And I've made a tower before, which is called the Ragpicker's Tower, which is a tower of magazines that I collected when I was young, called Popular Mechanics, and I collected them because I liked the imagery that was in them. And I had marked them with fluorescent markers as to the images that I liked in the books. And then they were just piled up in a corner, and then they became a tower and an artwork in themselves. Not that I was wanting it to be, it just happened. And in 2017 I was asked to show that piece of work. And for one reason or another it had been damaged and I couldn't show it. And I just started to look at another group of books I had, which was called the Men Only magazines. And all of a sudden they started to make some sense to me. And this was in 2017 when Trump had just come in, and also that I had also taken part in the Women's March against, one thing that it was marching for was against Trump and his politics. And I looked at my Men Only magazines, and there were 68 of them, and I happened to read that Trump's tower, he reports as having 68 floors, but the actual fact is that it's 58 floors. So he's even extending his tower flooring to make something look bigger or be bigger than what it actually is. And so I proposed that I would show this tower, and it was to be seen in New York, so it was rather apt that all of these things came together. The Men Only magazine is a magazine that was that came out in around 1935, and their catchphrase was, "We don't want women, we won't have women readers." And I thought that was quite an interesting statement, because I felt some kind of parallel from what was happening again in 2017 and before and after. So I made this tower of the 68 magazines. Inside the magazines there's in my own images in small black envelopes that I see as some kind of measure of resistance within the tower. Also what it does is it helps the tower kind of stay put as well. It balances the tower up, but they're like placed in the centre spreads of the magazines, and then they're encased in this vitrine. Well, potentially it can fall. I mean, and I think what I like, for me, I think with the images in them, I just like this kind of, they feel like malevolent or foreboding, or they feel I don't know, they feel like they're a message, and the tower is unstable and potentially it could implode. I like all of that. It's not a fixed tower. I think we're living in a world that is very unsubtle at the moment, and I think subtlety is a really good way of making strong points, and sometimes I think points are not listened to because they're bashed on the head too much, and I think that there has to be room for contemplation, and there has to be room to think, and that's what I hope to do with my work, is to not literally go like this and to say exactly what it is. It's a proposition. The tower is a proposition for people to consider all the things that you've sort of just mentioned. I'm not going to tell people how one should think about it. It's there to be thought about and to consider. I mean, I think as well, for a magazine, I don't know, but a magazine in 1935 that said, we don't want women readership, we won't have women readers, and that's 1935, and it's being shown in an exhibition in 2019, and it still makes sense. Do you know what I mean? And I just think, geez, we never learn, and everything goes back on itself, and we don't learn lessons, and we don't push forward. And I just think it's, particularly at my age, these are the things that kind of one considers. Hello, Dolly, hello, Vernie, who's my daughters. Hi, Gordon, hello, Mum.